Our next speaker I've been smart enough to have as my mentor for the past 10 or 12 years. When she was out in Connecticut, she helped to close down coal-burning power plants, and when she moved here to California, she not only established a program that made it affordable and more efficient to get solar hot water heaters, but put in place the California Solar Initiative, which has brought down the price of solar every single year as we continue to put more solar panels up. This is a woman who is now running the California Solar Industry Association, and as Paul was just talking about, the programs and the leadership that we'll see coming out of California's solar industry will be what will carry us to the green future and the green economy that we want. So without further ado, Bernadette Del Chiaro.
Me, Dan's mentor? I don't think so. It's more the reverse. But thank you, Dan. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Teo. Thank you, Bioneers, for having me and to share the stage with all of these great speakers and all of you. Tom and I were talking before this about how all of you could come up on stage and grab the microphone and have lots of really important things to share with the group, and that's the whole idea of today's conference. So I want to make my presentation short so that we can get to the heart of the matter of sharing ideas in a smaller group setting. But as Dan mentioned, my name is Bernadette Del Chiaro. I am the Executive Director of CalSEA, the California Solar Energy Industries Association. I've been at this for a little over a year now. Prior to that, spent about 16 years advocating and agitating within the environmental movement. And one of the reasons why I took this job as heading up the Industry Association is because sort of what the Senator mentioned earlier, this is a tremendous opportunity for us politically to start organizing people of all different stripes. And for me, when I look at my membership, which we have over 200 companies up and down the state, inland, coastal, north, south, they're really diverse politically. And to me, that's the power of helping to mobilize businesses to be part of building what Tom put in his essay, the yes. I should also mention that I was about 2 years old when CalSEA was formed. We're the oldest, nation's oldest and largest state-based solar industry association, formed in the early 1990s during the first Brown administration. And we are really obviously changed a lot over the past 40 years almost, and hope to, under the next Brown administration, grow and take this technology to the levels that Mr. Hawken described in terms of our pants smoldering. One of my favorite quotes, I just want to kind of frame this, is a Khalil Gibran quote that says, "The eye of a human being is a microscope, which makes the world seem bigger than it really is." To me, this quote captures both the first naivete, then hubris, for which we as human beings have sort of literally mowed down mountains to get every little last clump of coal. But it also captures the ease and quickness at which I think some of our fellow humans have been willing to think that the problem of climate change is too big for us to solve and that we are too small. I think as Paul Hawken and as many of our speakers have illuminated already today, we have more solutions at our fingertips than we are taking advantage of. We absolutely, this is a daunting problem, but we absolutely can solve it through working together, and we're already off to a good start. One of the reasons why I've really focused my activism, or as Paul said, my normalism on electricity is showed in this graph. We spent a lot of time thinking about the transportation sector, rightly so, but as you can see, electricity is actually the second largest source of carbon pollution or greenhouse gas emissions in California. And obviously, as we electrify the transportation sector, unless we green up the grid while we do it, we're only going to be shifting things around. And I think really importantly, amazing to me, is the fact that over 70% of our electricity consumed in California is consumed in buildings. So if we can green up our buildings, if we can add and make them more energy efficient, add distributed generation, and along with greening up the grid as a whole, we can really solve the climate problem. So one of the things I want to share with you is that there are a lot of dark horses in this race to the top on clean energy, and in particular on the rooftop solar market. This is a report from Dan's organization, Environment America, that shows that just 20 cities, representing 0.1% of the US landmass, host 7% of the solar capacity. And to me, what's even more revealing, if you look at these dots up close, we have facts like Phoenix has more solar than San Jose. Indianapolis has more solar than, anybody want to take a guess? San Francisco. So we have these, we're seeing the United States and places all around the country, not just left coast and right coast, but in between, red, purple, and blue, embrace this technology as an obvious solution for America, American consumers, for our children, et cetera. This one's also one that you probably don't know about. I was shocked when I heard it. The United States has the world's largest swimming pool solar heating market. We have such a big market. This is logarithmic, so you can't really quite tell the scale. But we have a bigger market on solar hot water, solar swimming pool heaters than 24 of the largest next markets combined. So while you might kind of poo-poo this as not exactly getting at the heart of climate change, I think it's really important actually to recognize that not just that solar water heating and solar thermal is a really important technology for us to dig deeper into reducing carbon emissions in the building sector, but this is actually keeping a 100-year-old industry afloat, and it's keeping that business know-how there and stable so that they're going to be ready to build those green buildings that we need them to help us build. So I want to share 4 quick facts on the California solar market. I know a lot of you know all of these, or a lot of these facts, but to me, they just always bear repeating because it's important to know where we are so that we can figure out where to go. First of all, we've installed more solar in the last 18 months than the previous 18 years combined. We have more solar installed today than this now defunct San Onofre nuclear power plant. This is on rooftops. This is just the rooftop market. This is not the large utility scale projects you see in the desert. This is just the rooftop market. It's phenomenal how meaningful this market has become. In 2017, roughly, I estimate, we're going to hit the real bona fide million solar roofs goal. Actually, 1 million solar roofs in California, and if we continue with our healthy growth, we'll hit that 2 million mark sometime around 2020. And my favorite, newest fact is we now employ more people in the California solar industry than in our traditional fossil fuel-dependent electric utilities combined. So what's driving our success? What has put us where we are today? California has 3 main ingredients, and we have them in spades, and we need to keep harnessing them. One is just strong public support that can be harnessed into political action. That is the foundation of all of our progress. Second is we have a really strong industry. As Paul mentioned, this is the industry with know-how. Nobody has it better than California. We can build this future. We have that ability if we can get the policy right. And then third, obviously, we have important political leadership, and we've had 2 gubernatorial administrations that have strongly embraced renewable energy, and in particular, rooftop solar has given us this foundation that we've been able to build upon. But it's really actually important to note that while governors are incredibly important to have and to be on our side, we have 50 commissioners, all with critical authority to make decisions about our future. We have 120 legislators. We have literally thousands of administrative staff whose job is to take these visionary ideas like VN and Dan's Million Electric Cars campaign and actually convert it into real policy that gets converted into real action. And sometimes those details get, are wrong, and that can make all the difference in the world. So we have a bit of a place of some uncertainty, both politically and policy-wise in California when it comes to where we are today on our growth. On the front part on political, an amazing fact because of term limits, over almost 50% of the California legislature is going to be brand new over the next 2 years. This means these are folks that were not around during the electricity crisis in 2000, 2001. They were not around to debate the merits of the Million Solar Roofs initiative that has created the 10 years of growth that Dan mentioned earlier. They certainly don't have a deep understanding of things like net metering or the Solar Rights Act. We have a lot of work in front of us to develop the next leadership in the state capitol to take on and tackle these problems with us. The second is, there's my late graphic, thank you. The second is the Public Utilities Commission. The governor right now has the opportunity to appoint a new president of the Public Utilities Commission to replace Michael Peavy. And This is a really important decision, critically important decision if we are going to truly see us transition to that green electricity grid, that green transportation sector that we all envision. It's going to be in large part because this person has the vision and the leadership and the guts to stand up. I want to highlight a quote from a former Brown appointee, Commissioner Mark Farron, who upon his exit from the commission recently said that the commission will come under intense pressure to protect the interest of the utilities over those of consumers, all in the name of addressing exaggerated concerns about grid reliability, cost, and fairness. You, my fellow commissioners, all must be bold and forthright in defending and strengthening our state's commitment to clean and distributed generation. So this, nobody could say it better than somebody who's been on the inside, that's seen the political tug of war that's happening, and to know that what's sort of on the other side is either our success, and we're going to have to make this success happen the next basically 6 years, or not. So if you look at this graph, this is a simple plot of our cumulative solar power installed in California over the past 14 years. It starts at, we applaud our growth. It is amazing, but when you're at near zero, it's not hard to see tremendous growth, right? But it shows you basically these major policy initiatives that have been put in place that have literally been just sort of lifting this growth line up. Started with kind of the awareness of the electricity crisis that really lit people on fire throughout California, and realizing that we needed energy independence, that the current system was not working for us. That then created the political will for this sort of history of policies, beginning with net metering, gives consumers access to the grid, rebates, like the Million Solar Roofs Initiative, to drive down the price of solar and drive up demand. The federal tax credit was critical to our growth in continuing to expand net metering. The limits that have been placed on that program has allowed this growth to happen. Unfortunately, this is now taking that same growth curve and spanning it out to 2030. If you assume actually pretty modest levels of growth, not the continued, right now we're looking at 40% annual growth in the solar rooftop market in California. If you actually assume that slows down a little bit, but we continue to have our pants smoldering, then you see this growth curve. But unfortunately, we're at a new starting line right now, because a whole set of policies that have been built, the ones that I showed you in the previous slide, those are all expiring in the next 2 years. So we have the California rebate program is basically all but wound down. Net metering is set to change basically in the next 2 years. The federal tax credit expires at the end of 2016. Meanwhile, we have some other promising movements. We have storage, a lot more interest in storage and policies to promote that, to help stabilize the grid and allow more solar to come onto the grid. We have AB 32, as was mentioned earlier. This is huge to bring oil and natural gas, by the way. We put a lot of talk about oil, but natural gas comes into the cap for the first time in 2015 as well. So it's the first time we were able to capture that pollution source and funnel those proceeds into carbon-reducing technologies and solutions as well. So the point being, though, we're at a critical juncture right now when it comes to clean energy policies that have driven the market. We are not yet flying, as you can see with this chart. Where we are today, we are barely above zero. Less than 2% of California's rooftops host a solar system. So we're really proud of where we've come, but we have a long way to go. And the policy initiatives that are going to be put in place in the next 2 years are going to be critical to whether we actually take off and see that flight pattern. Some of our priorities for the coming year are going to be continuing to give consumers access. So net metering, the ability to send electrons back to the grid and interconnect to the grid is critical. That is under fire from all over the state and all over the country by utilities who see it as, their death. We are fighting that and pushing. Also, there's going to be a complete overhaul of rates, how we as consumers interact with our utility company, what we pay, whether our rates are actually promoting and encouraging conservation and efficiency and renewable energy or not. That is all on the table right now at the Public Utilities Commission. Continued access. Do renters have access to solar? Do low-income and multifamily housing units have access to solar? Do we take those AB 32 proceeds that come from natural gas and electricity, and do we funnel them in the most productive manner to green up those buildings? Again, getting at that 71% of GHG emissions from the building sector. Are we pushing those in the right way to be the most inclusive, give everybody access, and drive a real market? And then lastly, are we expanding the investment tax credit at the federal level to continue to provide that base of support for making solar affordable? And then also reducing soft costs. So this is just something industry cares a lot about, is how can we get our costs lower and lower. Governor Brown went to Germany 2 summers ago, summer 2013, and he saw that they were installing solar twice as fast as us at half the price. And when he took a closer look at that, he realized that actually the biggest difference wasn't the modules and all of the hardware. It wasn't even so much the installation and labor costs. It was primarily what are called soft costs. And these are costs associated with just simply doing business, acquiring customers. And in the case of one of the most stubborn costs for us is just getting a permit from our local building departments. So we said, okay, Governor, you're on. We'll take this on with your blessing, and we did. We launched a bill this past year, AB 2188, by Almert Suchi from down in Torrance, and we passed the country's first ever statewide mandated, streamlined, standardized solar permitting program for the state of California. This initiative, if it's implemented well, should cut the cost of a solar system anywhere between $1,000 to almost $4,000. So it's for the residential home system. It's significant savings. Will take a giant chunk out of the cost of going solar. Not to mention save local governments money as they use things like the internet and other no-brainer ways to make government more efficient. So that's sort of our initiatives: net metering, access, expanding people's ability, the markets for access to solar, expanding solar hot water technologies and the global warming reductions that can come from that, and reducing our soft costs are some of our key things that we're going to be working on in the coming year. I just want to, I should also mention this little 20% peak load point. People spend, and Commissioner Farron's quote alluded to this, there is a lot of concern out there that we can't grow solar too quickly because the grid's gonna collapse. Let me just leave you with one fact on this. Hawaii, right now, the state of Hawaii has the highest concentration of solar in the country. And they're at basically around 20% of their electricity grid is from little rooftop solar systems. They're just now starting to see some of the problems with integrating, and they're an island with a lot less resources than we have, obviously. They're at 20%. California is not even at yet. We're about halfway to 5%. So we need to grow our market another 5-6-fold before we even come near where Hawaii is right now. And the beauty of California is we have, again, that ingenuity, that intelligent business resource, as well as good policymakers. We have the foresight. We can see what's coming. We can start to put in place today what's going to be needed between storage and also inverters, smart inverters. There's now basically on the market today these technologies that act basically like autonomous yet connected little mini brains with our solar systems that can help basically direct the electrons, the frequency, the voltage, all that's needed to keep that grid happy and alive and healthy. That all exists today, and it's a pairing. Solar is actually what's going to allow us to reach our vision and keep the grid alive and healthy and modernized. It's not the problem. So one of my closing things is just to point out that we are basically facing a great American paradox when it comes to climate change, because we are, of course, the source, main root of the problem, right? But through our political activism, through our ingenuity, our entrepreneurialism, our creativity, we, and joining with other like-minded regions and countries, we will be the source of both the optimism and the engine of change. So in closing, Bioneers is celebrating its 25th anniversary, but the PV cell is celebrating its 60th. 60 years ago, not too far away from here in Silicon Valley, Bell Labs invented the PV cell, the modern PV cell. And I was at an event a few months ago where a man named Morton Prince, one of the original scientists working at Bell Labs back in the 50s, that was part of this invention, was there. And I was able to pull him aside and ask him, what do you think about our progress? What's your assessment? You were there from day one. What's your assessment? And he said that he was incredibly disappointed that it has taken us this long to basically domesticate what was already ready to plug and play 60 years ago. And he said it wasn't because the technology wasn't ready. It's not all entirely because the costs were too high, as many like to blame, for solar's boutique image. But it was frankly the fossil fuel lobby that stood in the way of our progress and of America taking this ingenuity and putting it to work for itself. So I thought that was a call to action. We took us 60 years to get to basically 2 gigawatts of solar. If we continue on our path of growth, if we continue to pave the way with good, solid policy, if we continue as Californians and as the public to call for this change and demand for this change, we can do what we did in 60 years, multiply it by 10, and do it in 6. And this is actually pants smoldering, not on fire. So I just want to, again, thank you for the opportunity to come here and present to you and be part of this conference. Renewable energy and solar isn't the entire piece of the pie. As Paul mentioned, there's a whole lot of other things, but it is a critical component. If we continue to grow, we will get to 100% renewable energy. We will get to it in time that the climate requires, and we'll do it by small groups of people like this, working together, one house at a time, one community at a time, one state at a time. Thank you.